So today we are going to do a little more review with the factoring that we were working on during our 4 FID days, and also the last week that we saw each other in school. Tomorrow we're going to wrap up the factoring and finish a review for factoring, and then on Friday we will have a factoring quiz. So the worksheet that I have here is posted under April 1st. You can feel free just to write these problems down on a piece of lined paper or any type of paper that you have in your house. I'm going to work through numbers 1 and 7 with you today. If you follow along in this video, you can copy these problems down as we're working through them, and you can hear the explanation, and then you have 2 of the problems done. After the video, your goal is to complete numbers 1 through 8 for today, Wednesday, April 1st. So if you look at the first group of problems, it asks you to factor using the AC grouping method. And that's the method that we have been using, where we take A times C, and we write the 2 numbers that multiply together to be 9. So factors of 9, 1 and 9, and 3 and 3. The next step is to see how those 2 numbers combine to be negative 10. Well, a negative 1 and a negative 9 make a negative 10. But when I multiply, I still get positive 9. So those are the 2 numbers that we are going to use to rewrite our problem. 3x squared minus 1x minus 9x plus 3. And then we separate our problem looking at the first 2 numbers and asking ourselves what they have in common, what we can divide out, and that's an x. And when we divide out an x, because that's what they have in common, we're left with 3x minus 1. The second 2 numbers, again, asking ourselves the same thing. What do they have in common? A negative 9 and a 3. Well, both of them are divisible by 3. Because there's a negative sign in front of the 9, we have to pull out a negative 3. So whatever that sign is in front of the term, that's what we have to pull out. And when we pull out a 3, we end up with a 3x, and then 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. So factor by grouping, we did the AC part. We're working on the grouping part. The final part of grouping is to pair the 2 things in front of the parentheses together, because those parentheses are the same. So x minus 3, and then 3x minus 1. That's your final answer. So your factoring answer should look like 2 parentheses being multiplied together. So, looking all the way down at number 7 at the bottom of the page. So again, you're doing the front of the page today, numbers 1 through 8. Now you have number 1 done, and we're going to have number 7 done in a minute or 2. So the directions say, first find the GCF. Then factor the problem. So if you look, these numbers are kind of large, and when numbers are larger, sometimes they have something in common, a greatest common factor. So we're looking at 12, 40, and 32. 12, 40, and 32 all are divisible by 4. So that's the first thing we want to do. We want to make these numbers smaller by dividing by 4. So the 4 goes out front. We then write 3x squared minus 10x, and then minus 8. So that's the GCF part. The second part, now we're going to do the factoring, which is still the same factoring we did above. So A times C is negative 24. Notice we're no longer using the original problem. We're pretty much done with that original problem. We need to come up with numbers that multiply to be negative 24, but combine to be a negative 10. So 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. We need to make a negative 10. So if I have a plus 2 and a minus 12, that makes negative 10. But 2 times negative 12 still is negative 24. So I'm going to circle the GCF that I took out. I'm not going to write it again until I get to the answer. I am going to keep the 3x squared. And then we have a 2x, a negative 12x, and then a -8. So instead of writing -12, we're rewriting that. Putting a little line down the middle, taking out what those first values have in common. They both have an x. So if we pull out an x, we have 3x plus 2. Looking at the 12 and the 8, those are both divisible by 4. Again, the 12 is a negative, so we have to make sure we're pulling out a -4. -12 divided by -4 is 3x. -8 divided by -4 is plus 2. So almost done with this grouping, pulling the x and the -4 together, the 3x and the plus 2, and then this problem, we circled the 4 because that was the GCF. We need to place that 4 in our answer. So there's my factored answer with a GCF. So your job is to finish this part of the worksheet, just the front, numbers 1 through 8. Again, you can write them on a separate piece of paper, or you can work on your iPad if you have an iPad or a device through Notability, and you can complete these problems through Notability. The option is totally yours. Tomorrow, we will continue working on this worksheet, and we'll go over 2 other problems on the back of the page. Hope you have a great day.